Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson and welcome to Microsoft Project, the course. This is video number 10 in the series, and today we're going to be looking at how do we insert a change order into a schedule and see how it impacts the rest of the project. This is number 10 in this video series, so if you haven't watched the other ones or if you're fairly new to Microsoft Project, if you look at the description below, I've got links to the other videos, and I've got a link to a start point file that you can follow along with if you wish as I go through this. So I've tried to make it interactive because a lot of my viewers have been asking for that. So you can always download the file and then follow along if you wish, or you can just watch the video as it goes and try to pick up as much as you can. But I really feel that you usually learn it really good when you're trying stuff as it goes. I'm a professor of construction management, and I've taught Microsoft projects to tens of thousands of people all over the world. And I hope you'll join me in this series. If you enjoy the video, please click the subscribe button and click notifications, and you'll see as I release new videos. I'm not just about Microsoft Project. I also have a lot of videos on construction management, construction project management, business management, all aspects of construction as we build this community. Okay, so let's get started. This is a project that we've been working on from scratch early in the course. I did have some color coding in it. Somewhere along the line it lost that, but that's okay for the work breakdown structure. It is currently in the tracking Gantt. So the tracking Gantt shows the bottom bar and the top bar. We can go to the tracking Gantt by sliding to the left. Tracking Gantt, you know, on your screen you might have it in regular Gantt chart view. So there's where the color coding is. Guess I never did it in the tracking Gantt. And if you slide to the right and you go down to tracking Gantt, you'll see the bottom bar, the baseline, and the top bar, what's changed. And in the previous videos, we've been talking about how you update the schedule and how you recover. So I'm using a finish point of the previous video, number 9, where we've updated to a status date. So this is our status date over here. And so that's the date that we updated the schedule to. And then we recovered it because we were behind schedule. And so we worked at getting it to come back to 0. So currently, if I go to my variance screen, which is very good to do while you're in the tracking Gantt, click the square icon box over here, right click. You can see currently my project has a 0 variance overall in it. So I have gone from having lost 3 days over here to recovering that time and getting it back to 0. Today, what I want to show you is the insertion of a change order. This arrow I just stuck in there because I just was pointing out that we were looking forward when we were doing the recovery. I'll just delete that out of there for now. And I'm going to save this project. So we were talking about file saving protocols. And I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to go right over here to this PC. I'm going to go into our Office Remodel, the course updates folder. And this is what we were doing the last class. We were building up on this. This was our baseline schedule that once we set up our project and we were ready to go, we set the baseline on that. And you know, you can check previous videos for how to do that. Then we updated it and then we recovered it. And I talked about having a file naming protocol system so that you can update your files in order, because you may have, you know, in a construction project, you might have it 20 months long, do 20 updates or more. And so then it just will line them all up in this chronological order, especially with the numbering at the beginning. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this file because we're wanting to see about a contemplated change order. So I'm going to call this number 2. And I'm going to say we're at, let's see, I'm going to say that we're at February 28th that we're doing this, let's say. Okay, so I'm going to click Save, even though we're past that date right now, but we'll put that as what it is. All right, so I'm going to click Save. And so now I've got that in hierarchical order. And now I can start looking at, well, I want to see the potential impact that this contemplated change order is. So I've got to figure out where this contemplated change order is going to take effect, that I believe it's going to take effect. So I'm going to say that this contemplated change order is going to come in before the install T-bar ceiling. It has to, because of what's going on with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a bunch of rows. Now I could do this one at a time by right-clicking and going to insert task, or I can highlight a bunch of rows, and I think I'm going to highlight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows, right? So I've included install T-bar ceiling that, and I'm going to right-click and I'm going to insert the task. And so now I've just created 8 rows, and I'm going to call this CCO, Contemplated Change Order number 1. And I'm going to in this point here where I've got CCO number 1, I'm going to call it conference room bulkhead. Conference room bulkhead. All right, now let's just call it conference bulkhead, not to take up too much room. Okay, and now I'm just going to pull this to the side so we got some space there. Yes. And I'm going to put in the activities that I feel that we need to do for this change order. So install metal bulkhead. And I'm going to put relocate rough-in of diffusers. So that's basically your HVAC systems in the ceiling. Relocate rough-in of sprinklers. These are all things that you would have to do with this change order. New pot lights, right? And inspections. Install drywall, bulkhead, and tape drywall. Bulkhead. Okay, so I've got these activities here. Now, I want to create what we call, we've talked about the work breakdown structure and everything. Well, here I want to create a little heading so I know what is the change order. So it clearly identifies the change order. So I'm going to highlight these activities. I'm going to go up to my task tab and I'm going to indent them. Very much like how we recreated the work breakdown structure originally. All right, so I've created these activities, and now here in install metal bulkhead, I'm going to start putting my durations. So I'm going to say 5 days here. I'm going to say rough-in of diffusers, 1 day. I'm going to say 3 days for sprinklers, 1 day for pot lights, 2 days for inspections, 1 day for bulkhead, and 3 days for taping. All right, so install drywall for 1 day and taping there. Now, I'm going to make them that they go one after the other. So you remember in our entry screen, I can right click, go to my entry screen. I've got my predecessors listed over here. So I've got my predecessors listed over here. I can then link them how I want them. And so in this case, I want one after the other. So I could just put the numbers in here like 22, 23, 24, 25, and so on. But it's probably a lot easier for me to just link them. So that's what I'm going to do. And now what's important for you to realize is that these are all showing up at the beginning of the project right now. So these are all showing up at the beginning of the project. We actually have a name for this. We call it a fragnet, a fragmented network that we're inserting into the schedule. So this change order is basically a little mini project that you're putting inside the bigger project, and you're trying to see how does it impact the overall project. Now, in previous videos, I've kind of compromised my principles where I've said I want to have a constraint, right? So I've kind of compromised some of my principles that I don't like constraints, but I've said, oh, okay, well, this really came out of nowhere. So we could potentially put a constraint on this. So we could say, for example, that this is going to start, right? It's not going to start any earlier than, we could pick a date, right? So we could go in here and we could say, this is not going to start any earlier than May, and we'll say maybe May 8th. And you see how it moved it over here? All right. And actually, maybe I'm going to change that. I'm going to make it, maybe I'm going to make it May 1st. There we go. I want to make it a little bit more interesting here. So I'm going to make it May 1st. And so I put a constraint there. Now, I don't like putting constraints that much. And this is a little bit back of where our status date currently is. So this is looking ahead a little bit, right? So this is looking ahead a little bit in this case. So in this actual incident, I can put that if I want, but when I do that, when I put a constraint, I usually like to have it like where I'm about to update it or something, and the constraint's going to disappear anyways. Because once you update something and say it's done or it's started, the constraint goes away because it's done. There's no longer a constraint there. It's done. In this case, because it's so far ahead, I want to relate it to some other activity. All right. So I want to relate it to some other activity. So we're going to assume that we wouldn't get approval for this and be able to set this up until, let's say, we could say instead of having this at March, what do we got it at? We've got it at May 1st, all right? We could have this as a relationship to, say, the drywall second side. So maybe we've got this in relationship to drywall second side. So that means I've got to put a link to drywall second side. Now I could easily just, for now, because I'm going to change this, say, all right, well, drywall second side is number 18. So I could just click 18 there, right? And it won't move that because I've got that constraint over here that's a not, it can't start any earlier than that. But now that I've created that, you know what I can do? I can double click on this and I can go to predecessors. So I double click on the task, install metal bulkhead. I can go to predecessors, and now I can put a start to start relationship. So I can put a start to start, and I can put a lag. So I'm going to say that this is going to start. So this looks like it's starting on Tuesday. So there's 4 days there. There's another 5 days there. It's going to start 9 days after this. So I'm going to say 9 days. We'll see if I got that counting right. Maybe I missed it. Start to start. Okay. No, got it right. So nothing moved, right? So now it's relationship to this. So that's good. Now I don't need this constraint anymore. I'm going to get rid of the constraint, right? So I'm going to go to the Advanced tab, and I'm going to say constraint type as soon as possible, because really I don't like constraints. Now the constraint's gone. Now it's in relation to this. Now anything else moves or gets shortened, it'll shorten with it. So that's good. All right. So I've inserted this change order into my schedule. But this is where a lot of people that are new to it fail on it, is they forget that, well, but what does it need to link up to? Not only do I have to move it to where it starts, like I just showed you 2 ways, one with a constraint, one with a relationship, it also has to link to what it's impacting. And in this case, it's going to be impacting install T-bar ceiling. Okay, think of it's like an office, and you're ready to put the T-bar, like you want to put the T-bar, but you can't lay out the T-bar because you're not sure exactly where the bulkheads are going to be, and you got to put the corner round around against the drywall once it's taped. So it's really sort of hindering your ability to do the T-bar ceiling. And you're trying to, clients coming up with this bulkhead that they want, or the consultant, and you have to cost this out. And maybe you have a client that does not want this project to be late, but yet they also want the bulkhead. So you want to see, well, is this going to impact us or not, right? Because this bulkhead clearly right now looks like it's going to take 16 days to do. So is it going to impact us by 16 days? Well, I'm going to put over here where we've got this 19 as a predecessor, but we're also going to put comma, and I'm going to put number 27. which is the tape drywall. So I want you, before I press enter, to be looking over here. All right, I'll move this up here. All right, so I want you to be looking over here so you can see it. And I'm going to move it over. It's better. So it's not linked to anything, but now it's going to link to this. All right, so I think when I moved it, it lost it. So let's do that again. We'll put comma 27 and press enter. And do you see how it moved everything? It pushed this out. It pushed this out. It pushed the project out. So now we should go to the variance screen. So let's go to the variance table. Variance. And you can see here, it's pushed it out by 8 days. My project is now 8 days delayed. So this is a contemplated change order. We know that it's going to delay the project by 8 days now. So the question then would be, well, is that okay? Or would we have to look for ways to shorten the time? But either way, we at least know, just doing normal stuff, that this will delay the project by potentially 8 days. So that is a little bit of a conundrum for us. Now, that's good that we've done that. And by the way, I think I'm going to do one more thing because I forgot to do that when I changed that file name. I'm going to go File, Save As, right? Back to that file that I created. And I'm going to call this not recovery, CCO number 1, right? So now I'm identifying it better. I'll delete this one later on. So I'll delete this one when I get a chance later. But for now, I just wanted to have that orchestrated in there. Okay. So that's a good file naming protocol. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back in the previous video that's down in the description, follow the file naming protocol processes for that. And that should help you a lot for there. Now, some people will ask me too, well, okay, so let's say that they want, I noticed that this says NA. There's no baseline on it. And that's true. You don't have a baseline on that. And maybe it's a bigger change and you're going to want to track it. So maybe it gets approved. This now becomes a change order, right? Instead of a contemplated change order, it becomes a change order. And you want to track it because right now it won't show you a variance to a baseline because this was created after you created the baseline. But I don't want to re-baseline the whole project. I only want to baseline this right now. So these 8 rows that I put in. So to do that, all you need to do is go to Project, Set Baseline, and just pick Selected Tasks. So you want to set the baseline only for the selected tasks. And if you do that, then that will do it for those selected tasks. So if I pull this up a little bit, you should see it, and I'll click OK. It'll give me a warning, but we're not changing anything outside of the baseline. You know, just this area here. We're not changing anything in the original baseline. So when I click yes, it should copy these dates and these dates over here and here. Right? So I'll just go yes. And there you go. Now you've got a bottom bar, and now when you change something, it will show you a variance. So if this becomes a change order and this something changes here, it will show you the variance, not only on the overall project, but the variance on the change order itself from when you added that in, which is very cool from that perspective. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to get across today with the change order. We'll be looking at some more things in detail in the upcoming videos. I'm really trying to do some analysis with what have I got and what's happening and trying to figure out where do you go from here. But of course, we could have also cost loaded this, and maybe I'll do that in the next video too. Maybe I'll add cost and maybe I'll strip out this baseline on these selected tasks. But we've got a good start here on how we create a change order and see how it's impacting the rest of the project, because that's important. We have a lot of changes. Nothing ever goes the way we expect it to go on projects. And so this is helpful from that perspective of inserting that fragmented network into the schedule. So I'm Tom Stephenson. I hope this has been helpful. You can check out my YouTube channel and the playlists that are involved. I've written several textbooks, one on project management, planning and scheduling, that you can find on Amazon. It's called Planning, Scheduling, and Control of Construction Projects, and Understanding Construction Drawings, of which I've got another video series as well. So don't forget to click subscribe, leave a comment or question, and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.